All right, get this show on the road. Heidelberg Township Water Board Committee meeting for, what are we in? April still. April 2025, come to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I was gonna whisper, pull it out, but we were already. I pledge allegiance. Pull it out. Right. First thing there, before we get too far, just for everybody, which everybody here is already aware, be aware of during the meeting, persons may be using audio or recording devices. Guess we can acknowledge a quorum also. And move into public comment. Comments can be made regarding any items listed on the agenda and any non-agenda items, 3 minutes per speaker. Persons who have made prior arrangements to be placed on the agenda will have first priority. Prior to addressing the board, you must come to the podium, state your full name and address. Any public comment? Go ahead.
Renata Castillo, 6826 Cannery Court. I see on the agenda, Travis, that you're putting this bit about short-off notices for past due balances, and it would be, it would be good to have had more representation from the customers before we got to this point here, and I've not seen an effort by the board to try to get some of the water company customers here. I reached out to you, kind of offline about it.
I didn't get anything from you.
I talked to you in person about it a couple of months ago. Well, you may not remember, we talked about it. And I told you, hey, there's not a lot of people here who are, the customers, and you may not be, I guess you don't remember what you told me, which is that they'll start showing up when we raise their rates. And I think it's just reflective, I think, of the sort of leadership that we get in this township, that there's no effort to reach out to the community. There's no effort to get their thoughts. They're treated, we're treated as a nuisance for speaking out and, asking questions. And, I think what you're going to get is that there is going to be some backlash, some concern, because it has not been addressed, right? I can see you looking at the clock, right? That you want this to end.
What are you referring to not been addressed?
Well, the fact that this committee, this board, has not brought in the water company customers into this conversation, right? They are not here. They're not, they're not participating in this conversation, and it's for tough moments like this, and when we're talking about shutting people's water off, that it would be useful to have had them here. And it's unfortunate that we've done the normal thing that we do in Heidelberg, which is ignore and avoid talking to the people, rather than engage them early and try to have a conversation. Do you have a sense? Do you understand also? Have you done some due diligence on this in terms of the risk for a potential lawsuit if you do go ahead and shut some water services off for some people?
We are looking at what procedure we would have to have drawn up to do it.
Sure. Do you but you're proposing right now to move forward with it? You haven't already looked into this?
No, it's for discussion.
I see.
Anybody else?
Can I speak to that?
You sure may.
So I'm a water member, it's not a co-op member, and so is Mr. Longstrap. I don't know how long we've been talking about having this committee.
At least a year.
At least a year. I did
Probably
reach
two.
out to all of my neighbors and just say, hey, don't need to be on the committee, I got enough crap to go on, I don't need to be. But if you want me to, I will gladly speak on your behalf, and I assume everybody here knows this, but I joined this to represent my neighbors. So there are quite a few times that neighbors come to me and call and, hey, what's going on, this and that. So I think they don't wanna be involved in some of the commotion that sometimes is associated with township meetings, and it's easier just to deal with one person. So to say they're not fairly represented, they know what the meetings are, I keep my neighbors informed. I feel like, you know, I'm a pretty decent middle ground person that they can come to for the answers and stuff. So I do feel like, if I can speak for the water co-op, we are represented here. But yeah, anybody that wants to come to the meeting is more than welcome, they know when it is, so.
Very good. Thank you, Heather. Lori?
Hi, my name is Lori Van Tassel, 6826 Cannery Court, and I have spoken to many of the water company members, the customers, and many of them do not know what is going on here. During this time, people are working 2 and 3 jobs to pay the bills, and the homes along there are in the highest density, location in the township. They are some of the poorest households in our township. So maybe you could explain to me why you went for the hammer first, rather than some process first, rather than we're gonna turn your water on. Why would you discuss that first? Because from what I understand from those people, they do not have a sense of what is going on. There's no communication directly from the township to them as to what is taking place. And I don't think it's much to ask to have some, it doesn't cost anything to send 33 houses of communication out. So some form of, even a small newsletter, like once a quarter, just to kind of explain. And how many people do you have that are in arrears? You bill per quarter, right? So how many, what is arrears, and how many members do you have that are not
None current.
paying their bills? So.
Good.
Can I
So-
speak to that too?
You sure
I'm sorry, the people you're talking to, are they fairly new, like have bought the house within the last year or so?
No.
Okay, because I literally went and knocked on every door, put letters on the doors that weren't there. And like I said, this is back when we first started talking about this, so if
Okay.
people have bought the houses, that letter had my email address, my address, and my cell phone number.
Okay.
So, 18 months, a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever it was, they may not recall it, they may not have
Got
got the
it.
letter, but by all means, if there is somebody that has questions and they want answers, I will gladly talk to people. Because I know now this gentleman has moved out, but there was a gentleman that was in arrears back when it was the co-op.
Okay.
And our hands were really tied with that.
So this is going to the solicitor? Is that the next place for this? So you're gonna ask the solicitor to research this? So,
Correct. It's just, it would operate the same as any other utility. I mean, if you don't pay your electric, you can't just keep going forever and ever, right? I mean, if you don't pay your med ed bill,
that is true. But you didn't have any,
So, let me
you
just
didn't
narrow
have
it-
any
let me
like,
narrow it down real easy.
okay,
So all this is so we have some kind of procedure if someone would be in arrears. We're not shutting anybody off. Everyone's paid up. So it was discussed that we just would like to have something drawn up ahead of time in case something would come up where it needs to be addressed. There's
And-
no formal written procedure for Heidelberg Water Board or Water Authority, whatever. I guess
I don't know what it's called
authority.
now.
Committee. Well, it's not.
We're the committee.
It's not really a committee. I guess just
It's listed as company.
Company.
Heidelberg Water Company. So just to be clear, that's all this is about. So that they can go through the proper channels and the solicitor can draw up of what would have to be done should it come to that point. Okay? Meg,
May I just stay seated?
what's that? Trying to figure
Meg
this thing
Powell.
out.
Porter Shred. So what you're saying is that the two accusations that were just thrown at you right from the beginning, about, not having a process and just going and ruthlessly cutting these people off and not having researched anything, that's all actually what you're doing right now is creating the process. You're
Correct.
not, yes, okay. So I just wanted to be clear, that's, that was entirely fallacious what those two first comments and accusations were.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we also have to keep in mind that the Board of Supervisors, I think, recognize the need for a group of community members to sit down and do exactly what we were appointed to do. So this is new stuff for us. There are all sorts of issues to be addressed, and we're trying to work our way through that.
Thanks, Al. Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Lucas, Terry Long? Okay.
Do
Next,
it twice?
you get 3 minutes.
Oh,
Solicitor
there
right
you
in
go,
public
that's the
comment.
answer.
Next part of the agenda, approval of February 26, 25 meeting. Has everyone had a chance to look over the minutes that you were provided?
Yep.
Do I make a motion to approve?
If you feel so inclined.
That's make sure it's protocol. I make a motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes, minutes are approved. Engineer's not here, so nothing from them. And moving right into my agenda item, which we pretty well already discussed. So, for any other unclarity, everything that I've been told and hearing is obviously none of the curb valves that they supposedly have ever probably been turned, nor do they know where they are.
I've lived in that house 25 years, and we've threatened with wrenches when it was a co-op. We would take the big water wrench to people's houses, and somehow they pay the bill. But we never dug one up. We never found a shut off.
Correct. So I just had that on there. It was brought up about what we would do, or what, basically we have no written process. So,
can I add something to that? I know, and I know nothing about this other than as the treasurer, what we used to do. When people were in arrears, we would put a lien against their house, because there wasn't, sometimes some, it's not like you can go to jail for not paying your water bill.
correct.
So is that something we need to discuss? Is that part of the shut-off process for other, utilities?
Yeah, I think this one here, I don't think, this
I didn't
one's
look
actually
at
York
that.
Water. I think this one's just through the state,
Okay.
the PUC.
You found the same thing I did.
Yeah, and I know I brought this one in for Judy. I mean, this is basically how we handle it. You get, a 48 or a 72. And obviously you have your people that, in that business, you can't shut them off over the winter. So miraculously, come whatever the date is in November, they make their minimum payment, and then it's on
Okay.
through the season till you can't turn them, or when you can turn them back off, and then you turn them back off again and play the game over and over.
Well, the caveat is, it can only be protected from shutting off when the water is part of the heat system.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how the water part of it is, but
That's what the Pennsylvania state law shows.
I would say that would probably, and that's all
And I don't think
solicitor
it's-
stuff as
Yeah,
far as.
I don't think it's, obviously not a current problem, but like I said, the gentleman has moved out. But I mean, he was years behind in paying his water bill. And he would also water his lawn on a regular basis.
Mhm.
He objected to paying a water bill in, just on the theory of paying a water bill. So I don't know how the co-op ever recouped its money there. But that was something we had talked about in those situations, Kevin put a lien on the house. So I don't know if that needs to be part of this or not, but.
Well, in regard to the curb stops, isn't that on the engineer's list to renew?
I think so. He's aware of it anyway. I know he's aware of it, whether or not he was instructed to do anything, I don't know.
Well, it'll be up to us to make sure he stays aware of it, I guess.
Yeah,
I would like to go down at some point and just see if you can find one, roughly how deep they are, what they look like, just for simple.
Yeah, we could shut off the
Curiosity.
Waltons,
Yeah,
just to see if it works.
my
They're
neighbor's,
troublemakers.
my neighbor's in Altland too. We can shut his off.
Okay, we'll do them
By
both.
the amount. But that would be.
Yeah, you can dig up my front yard, I don't mind. I raise boys.
The first thing would just be to, I think, just see what they do look like, how deep they are.
Yeah,
And if they should all have cast iron boxes and lids.
who's the gentleman that's here a lot of times that knows a lot about water companies? Brew. Mr.
Andy?
Brew, yeah, I bet he has a way to knows how to track the water line back and see where it.
You should be able to locate, if you get it on in the house, you could hook a locator to it and come out.
Well, you can come to my house and do it.
Metal detector will find it in
Yeah.
the street.
So if you can hook a locator up to it where it comes in the wall, or drop the curb stop on the curb valve and hook to the curb key, you should be able to locate it out that way too.
Yeah, if you guys wanna use my
That's
house as
how
a
we
guinea
do it,
pig, go right ahead.
anyway.
My guess is invisible.
The curb stops are not visible.
Can't see the shut-off valve?
Not that I'm aware of.
There's one in my house.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, not.
Can't see the one outside?
So, I guess we'll just let this, as far as that, like I say, everyone's paid up. This is not something we have to,
Yeah.
looking for any kind of big action or motion this evening. So, near as I know, there was 2 that were in arrears, but since this month, they have been paid up, so they are good.
Okay.
So,
But I respect you guys doing this work in advance of needing to.
that's like I say, this is all just trying to have a plan in place for if
Yeah.
should need addressed. So, all right. We good on that?
Good on that?
You good, Mr. Miller?
Oh, I'm happy.
Perfect. Heather has nothing, and Alan, I'll let you go ahead.
Okay. Our last meeting, we had a gentleman from the audience who used to work for Conewago Contractors, so he knows some stuff. And he said that maybe it was a good idea to have twin tanks on the hill rather than a single one. And I think his reasoning was that anything made out of steel that's in contact with water needs to be maintained. So if we have just one vertical tank and we have to maintain it, then we're gonna have to provision for a temporary condition of operation for the water company, which would probably be a real nuisance. So the question in my mind is, should we go through the Board of Supervisors or whoever to suggest to the engineer to take a look at the cost of twin tanks?
So basically what you're saying is you would give yourself the ability to take one offline, maintenance, whatever, instead of being down.
And it would usually have, and I'm not talking about maintenance every year, I'm talking about, who knows, 5 years, 10 years. Because somebody's gotta get in there, inspect it for corrosion, and then sandblast and recoat.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, as far as I can remember from Anthony, it was it like a 17 by 47 or something like that? For that, big tank, yeah, 17 by 47.
And of course, you wanna hold the height to maintain the pressure. And the 17 could be reduced because we would meet the temporary requirement with that much water in storage. So it'd just be a matter of making that 17 into like 10 or something.
So the takeaway is to ask the engineer for a cost benefit analysis of one versus
Twin
two?
tanks, yeah.
Perfect.
Next item deals with the electric bill, which isn't really high, but with tanks, we don't need to pump water through the day. In other words, we got a day and a half or 2 days of water up in that tank. And the customers can use the water and the pressure supplied by the elevation such that the pumps don't have to run during the day. If the pumps don't run, except for what the state calls
Say off-peak.
super off-peak, 1 p.m. to 6 a.m., you could cycle the pumps to refill the tank every night. And then your multiplier, as far as I can tell, is 0.53 on the electric bill. So you virtually cut your electric bill in half by using what the state's gonna pay for.
Do you remember roughly, just out of curiosity, what the electric bills run? I know we talked about it.
I thought she had given us one last time.
Yeah, there was a number, it wasn't big, but
No, it wasn't big.
if you cut a bill in half, cut it in half.
I'm sure this newer system probably had more, probably not a whole lot more,
But a
but
higher cost.
especially if everything's still gonna be, if it's gonna be gravity fed, might even be a little less.
I have a question.
Can't. Try. Sorry. Man.
I have the electric bill with me today.
That's okay.
I can tell you what they were when I.
I was gonna say, that's what.
$70, $80.
Okay, so $100, just say, $100 range.
And that's probably like a month.
Great.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. Good idea.
Okay, another question for the engineers. If we have a tank and we have 2 wells, we're gonna have to sort out, or at least have visibility, preferably through Wi-Fi, of the water level in each well and the water level in each tank. The reason being, if you just run one pump into a tank overnight, you're gonna drain the well down, and then the pump's gonna need to be reset. And we wanna build in that kind of a difficulty for the future. So there's 2 points that address that, basically on providing a way to sense the water level in the well and sense the water level in the tanks. Manage that later, but again, it's gotta get back to the engineer. We talked a little bit about a fire department connection. Should we request Chris come to a meeting or just talk to him offline, or?
We can. I'm pretty sure he's still in favor of it. My honest opinion is, I don't personally think it's worth the strain on the system for the little bit of benefit that they would get. Being there's a hydrant up Young's Road.
Yeah, I
They
know where it
can
is.
So, and then there's 2 on Gets Run. There's one on Barnhart and then there's one on Industrial, which is how far from here? Not very. So
10
my
minutes.
feeling is the small amount of use that they would get, because they wouldn't be able to run it dry, obviously. And how many fills they gonna really get that they couldn't just go
Right.
an extra mile? Maybe that's not the right mindset, but I just feel, being it's a small system and it's on a well, like just an actual deep well.
Do we need to make a pro-con list to kind of?
No, I mean,
Okay.
if they're gonna drill a second, I guess we gotta have that backup well for sure. Maybe see once what kind of GPMs they get, out of that.
I don't remember the volume of the tanks, but they're a heck of a lot bigger than a typical Porter's tanker truck. What are they, like 3,000-4,000 gallons?
Right.
Yeah, so that's basically a sip in the system. And if you had a fire in Longview, it might really be an advantage. I know when the recent fire was in Laurel Woods, they had 2 or 3 tankers running down to
Yeah,
Young's
yeah.
Road to fill back up.
Yeah. Yeah, Scott said that was a good idea for them there,
For it to be there,
Yeah.
yeah.
for like the High Rock end, cause you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean, that's, they're again, not far from Gets Run, but,
Yeah, after that fire, I was thinking about digging a pond outside of my woods.
yeah, I mean, like I say, we can always look at it, and like I say, once, I mean, obviously, there's gonna have to be a limit and how
How
they
much
would
we
know.
wanna spend there.
Well, I mean, a limit on how much they would be able to pull.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, it ain't like they'd be able to have their tanker task force set up there and just keep pulling, but, you know, I guess for, you know, in the moment, probably would be good, but there had to be some limits set,
Yeah, we'd have to talk about it some more.
yeah.
And then would part of the water bill burden be on the fire company that time? I mean, I don't mind paying my share to put my neighbor's house out, but I also don't wanna speak for my neighbors that are on fixed incomes or whatnot, so
Yeah, I don't know.
that's
Interesting.
a lot of questions.
Well, the other thing that would happen possibly is your, fire insurance would go down if you had a hydrant.
Yeah, that's true.
Other than that, I guess we won't hear anything about the driller's report on the well that was requested.
I have not seen or heard anything.
Okay. Maybe it doesn't exist, I don't know.
I could not tell you.
I talked to Todd Reichert about it. He seemed to think it existed, but he also seemed to think I couldn't get it.
I don't know why you couldn't.
Municipality, he doesn't wanna get himself in some sort of a problem.
Okay.
I mean, I can call records again if I'm not stepping on somebody's toes.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I don't believe there's anything there that's confidential
So
information.
there's no toes here to step on tonight, so.
But I don't know, that's been a little while, I think, since that was done, too.
Yeah.
I'd say at least better part of a year.
Okay,
All good?
all good.
Old business.
I don't know.
I guess the old business was the driller's report.
Yeah.
So that's still pending.
Got
Have we
that?
gotten any, information from the engineers where they are on the, grant applications and design details?
No, not that I'm aware of. I haven't gotten anything, and I would assume anything that I would've gotten, you would've gotten as well.
Nothing.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought soon we would get some kind of a drawing, sort of showing what the $75,000 gallons, Alan,
Or was that the reserve
Oh, no, wait.
that we need?
needed for a 3-day supply. I thought that's what the tank was supposed to hold.
Do you want me to touch base with Judy for the grant updates and engineer updates to see if there's anything?
I would assume if the engineers had anything, they'd be here to
We
present.
would, but I'll ask.
New business?
Got none?
No?
Next meeting, May 28th, 2025 at 5:30. Shall we have business to be discussed? Will be our next meeting. You still good at 5:30?
Yeah.
Still work for it?
Thank you.
With that,
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
But I gotta remember to write the time down this time.
5:59.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it 1 PM to 6 AM or is it 1 AM to 6 AM?
Yeah, I saw that.
Results.
I think